Well, hello, race fans. How are you? A brand new week. It is March the 8th. And again, every time we get to that new week, right, closer and closer to the start of a new racing season, both for the NTT IndyCar Series and the Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires. My name is Rob Howden, the Road to Indy insider and the voice of that Road to Indy. Looking forward to getting the season underway and obviously counting down until we get a chance to get to Barber for spring training, which will really be our first kind of official look at all the drivers and the teams that will be part of the 2021 season. One of the teams, of course, in the Indy Lights program, making its debut, will be the Global Racing Group, as they have expanded from what they do, obviously, over at the FR Americas program, and coming in to partner with HMD Motorsports to come Indy Lights Racing. And really, it's kind of been that move that so many of us looking forward to, because a young Swedish driver who dominated the action last year in FR Americas is coming over to run as a rookie in Indy Lights. Linus Lundqvist, of course, the driver I'm talking about, absolute flat domination last year. And that kind of puts him, I hate to use the word dark horse for the championship this year because he did so well, but he is a rookie coming in with that new team, Global Racing Group, even though they have the connection with HMD Motorsports, a primary championship contender, you have to believe. As after the hiatus for Indy Lights, we press the reset button and we're getting ready to come back and do it again. We've got a couple of different scholarship winners. Kyle Kirkwood, of course, from the year before, 2019. Then we've got Stingray Robb as well with Juncos Racing, last year's Indy Pro 2000 champion. So a bunch of drivers coming into play, and that's why dark horse or maybe an unknown is, to a certain extent in terms of Indy Lights, a better way to describe Linus. Let's bring him in here right now to join me. Linus, thank you so much for joining me here on the Road to Indy Insider Live.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you again, Rob.
I look forward to it, my friend. This is going to be a tremendous year. And I think everybody who loves IndyCar and loves Indy Lights was kind of dying last year. We didn't get a chance to have the series, but it really has amped things up for this year in 2021. 12 confirmed cars. Before we delve kind of into your career and how you started in karting and worked your way up through the ranks over in Europe, let's just talk first about your excitement. Big season last year we'll touch on in Formula Regional Americas. But, man, dude, you're going Indy Lights racing. You're one step away from IndyCar. It's going to be a fun season.
I know. I mean, just thinking about it sort of gets me pumping, and I'm so excited for the season. Like I said, we had an awesome season last year together with Global in the FR Americas Championship, and obviously it feels great to be able now to sort of take the next step. And like you say, now you're racing together with IndyCar at those weekends, and you're the step below the big boys. So it's going to be super fun, and I'm so excited.
Mentally, obviously, in the offseason, I know you guys have done a lot of testing. HMD is such a great program, as is Global Racing Group. You bring the both of them together and their core competencies and their success. And, man, it makes this kind of a powerhouse juggernaut team. But you got a chance to do some testing, of course, in the Dallara IL-15. How much momentum, we'll get to it more later, but how much momentum and confidence do you have coming off that dominant year last season through all the testing you've done? A brand new car, track you've never been to, some of the tracks you've never been to. Are you still as confident as you were last year?
I mean, obviously you bring a bit of confidence because we had such a good season, but you still need to be a bit humble and respectful for the challenge that lies ahead. And I mean, it was a big step, even just the first lap that I did in the lights car. It's a big step car-wise, like power-wise and aero and brakes. So obviously it's going to be a new challenge, and a lot of new circuits and street circuits and an oval that I've never done before. So there's a lot of new challenges, but I'm so pumped for it. I feel I'm ready for it.
Well, we're going to take this opportunity, as we do with my live shows here, to kind of introduce you to the Road to Indy fan base, the community, and, of course, all those that love IndyCar racing and kind of like to follow the young drivers as they come up through the ranks. Let's start with you. Like most of the drivers that we have in the Road to Indy, a big, a young career of karting. Give me a little start, though, how did you fall in love with racing? Is it a family thing? What was it that, as a young kid, you said, I want to go go-kart racing?
Well, you tell me, actually. I'm the first one in my family
really?
to even be interested in motorsport and racing. Wow. So, it was more or less random, I almost want to say. Okay. But for some reason, I had a love for cars when I was younger. And then by accident, I got introduced to go-kart at the age of 6. And then I just fell in love with it. Wow. So I then just started driving at a rental place, picked it up, and then I had the love and the support of my parents, so they bought me my first go-kart. Wow. And then we chucked it in the back of our car and then just drove to our first race, not knowing anything. So I'll tell you, the first couple of races were like a steep learning curve. both for me and my parents, like we had no idea, like qualifying and heats and finals. We had no idea. So, but yeah, we kept at it, and quite early on, it showed that I was pretty fast, and we started to win races, etc. And that's where I picked up sort of my motivation and why I do this. It's the love of winning. And we kept on doing karting for 8 years, and then went on to single seaters, and here we are almost 15 years later.
Right, no kidding. It's crazy. And I love the fact that obviously there was natural talent there, right? You guys didn't know a lot, so it's not like you had the technical knowledge to be able to get you up front. It was just you able to drive the kart and get wheeling. And that's what, Dan Weldon used to always say, and to me and to everyone else, that karting is the purest form of motorsports, right? So it's, if you can drive, you can get to the front. So as a young Swedish driver, there's obviously a lot of guys that have come up before. Were there some drivers that maybe were your heroes back then, or guys that you wanted to emulate?
I wouldn't say that I had any like clear idol or someone that I wanted to be, but obviously people that you looked up to, and sort of parts where I want this part and I want that part from this person. And it doesn't just have to be in racing, I think just in general.
Sure.
But it was another Swede that I followed that I think you all know very well, who is Felix Rosenqvist, who I've gotten to know now in the later years. But he was one of the guys that I sort of looked up to, because in 2015, when I stepped up to single seaters, he won the F3 championship in Europe. Mm-hmm. So obviously he was kind of a big deal for any young racing driver. So that was cool. And it's good to see him now in IndyCar as well, together with Marcus.
We call it the Swedish invasion, for God's sake. It's Marcus Ericsson, like you said, then Felix, and of course Rasmus Lint came through and did tremendously well. We were hoping to see him in Indy Lights this year, maybe next year. So, okay, you talk about karting. So you jumped then into essentially what was Formula Renault 1.6. Talk a little bit about your run up to the ladder, because really I think you stayed in the Renault for a couple of years, but then, bam, you just started moving forward, right?
Yeah, so we did 1 year of the Formula Renault 1.6 in Sweden. And what was a bit special maybe was that we still did it as a family team. So
you did?
Yeah, so my stepdad, who was my mechanic all through the karting years, he sort of stepped up to be a racing team boss. Together then with my mom, and then actually a colleague and a coworker of my stepdad was being second mechanic.
I love that.
And then his brother was my engineer, who'd never been a race engineer before. So I mean, we showed up and we did our best. And the first year we finished fourth, and then the second year we did it again, and then we won the championship. So
that's amazing.
It was cool. Yeah, and I mean that was very fun and very interesting at the same time. I think anyone that's been working together with a family and trying to almost run a family business, obviously this was a racing team. There are always some obstacles that you have to get through, but in the end, I think we were a pretty well-oiled machine. Not gonna lie. So
what a storyline though! You guys get into karting, and nobody knows anything about karting. You end up having your own essentially Formula Renault team about 9 years later. I think that's amazing. So finally, you make the break from the family, right? They say there's only so far we can take this kid. You hook up with R Racing, and I think it's 2017, right? You go British F3 racing. How was that transition going from a family team into a team like R? Really well-known team, well-oiled machine. What was it like making that transition into essentially a professional operation?
Yeah, like I say, that was my first transition, going from like a family, and we still did it at a high level, but looking internationally, we realized quite quickly that we can't do this on our own. And the reason why we did it as a family team was that we didn't really have the financial means to go with a professional team earlier. Yep. But now this opportunity came together with R and to do F4, and we managed to make it work. But it was huge, actually. I mean, going from like we all did this part-time with my family, now having like a whole fully dedicated team to do this 100%, it was cool. So I made the decision as well to move over to the UK at 17, 18, and then live there for the season.
With the team?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. I'll drop some pictures up while you keep talking. So here's your Formula Renault.
Yeah.
A little bit of success with that car, as you said. You go F4 racing, and then let's talk. You end up staying with Double R. We talked about this before we came on. I find it impressive that you stayed with Double R Racing for 3 straight seasons in 17, 18, and 19. As you said, 4th in the British F4 Championship, 5 wins on that year. You also ran a couple of British F3 races with the team. Let's talk about 2018 as well, because you end up going all in on the British F3 program with 7 victories. Talk a little bit about jumping up from F4 right up to F3.
Yeah, F4 was a good year. It was, like I said, we had 5 wins, and it was a very competitive season that year. So it could have been anywhere from 5th to 4th. Well, 5th to 2nd was pretty close. But we felt that we had the speed and, you know, the right people in the team. So when we looked at what we could do for 2018, the British F3 seemed like a reasonable choice. And obviously we had a good relationship with Double R and the team boss there, Boyo. So we managed to make a deal, and then obviously went for the championship in 2018. And it started off well. I mean, because obviously being a rookie, going into the British F3, we sort of said that, all right, if we can start off with some top 5s, maybe top 3s, and then towards the end, maybe go for a couple of wins, that would be good. But we started off by winning the first race of the season. And then
changes everything, right?
That's the bar for the rest of it. And we're just like, all right, well, we can't get any worse now.
That's it.
So,
That's it.
Yeah, we just try to keep it up, and then obviously at the end of the year we stood as champions. So
well, what I love is the fact you come into the first race. So I'll ask you the same question later on, like I always do. What's your expectations for this year, right? So you have your expectations coming in, like you said. We'll try to get some podiums, but you go from here immediately to here, and then that's the end of the season. Like, what an unbelievable kind of a ride, an adventure. Do you feel like the amount of success that you continue to have just kept getting more and more and bigger for you? Could you feel you as a driver just getting better and better?
I don't know. I don't feel like I didn't wake up the next morning or anything like, I'm a better driver now.
It wasn't a switch or something like that. Okay. Yeah.
No, I think it's just everything just came together. And I think most drivers can say this as well. Like, it just happens naturally, almost like a progression, that everything just sort of clicks and you understand more, and I don't know, you just sort of grow both as a person, but as a driver as well.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then, the realization of how you manage a championship, that you don't have to win every race to win a championship, but as long as you finish ahead of the guy who's second in the championship, then you're fine. That's
the maturity, right? You start getting the maturity. And I ask a lot of drivers all the time, and I'll ask you the same thing at the end of this year. You're one driver, you're one young man or one young woman at the start of the season, but you mature so much, especially when you're in your teens, your teenage years. By the time you're at the end of the season, you're so much different than you were at the start of the year.
Yeah, I know.
Literally, right? So talk about your move then. So obviously a solid run. You win the championship in British F3. That's a big championship to win. Turns a lot of heads. You elect to go Euro Formula Open racing in 2019 again with Double R Racing. Was the concept essentially Double R kind of saying, hey, this is what we can do? This would be a good next step for you?
No, so we looked at different options, and the target was to do FIA F3, the old GP3 championship. But also know that to go, when you the higher you go in the levels, the more important it is to go with the right team as well. Because obviously there is the top team and the downward sledge. So and to be able to fight for a championship, because that's what we're here to do, then you need to be with the top team. But unfortunately, for budget reasons, we just couldn't do that for FIA F3. And then obviously the next best thing was the Euro Formula Open, which was essentially more or less the old Euro F3 in Europe. And then Double R was coming back to that championship as well. And for us, it seemed like a natural choice to stay with them, and they did a good job. So it was cool.
Let's talk as well. Yeah, again, you had to stall. What did you do? Fifth in the championship that year.
Yeah, fifth, second.
You also got a chance to run at Daytona in the Rolex 24. How did that come about?
So that was because in the UK, in the British F3 Championship, they also had a separate championship called the Sunoco Wheeling Challenge.
Okay.
Which and that is like British GT, British F3, Janetta, and a couple of other series that's pulled together. And the winner of that series gets a funded drive in the Daytona 24 hours. So on top of the British F3 title, I also won that challenge, which gave me the drive then for the Rolex 24 hour in the Lamborghini.
How was that experience?
That was awesome. The whole thing was so cool because that was my first time ever in the U.S. to start off with.
Yeah. Like and then first ever trip to the U.S.
Yeah, first ever trip.
I love it.
And
okay.
And then it was my first ever time in a car with a roof, like a GT car.
Yeah.
First ever endurance race. So a lot of new boxes that I had to tick off after that one. But I think it was just so cool, so different to anything that I was used to before, or anything I've been close to. So it was very nice.
Wow, that's amazing. We lost you for a second there, but that's fine. So let's now move in. So you come to the U.S. to run this race. Tell me about when the mindset, when you started thinking, how did you start thinking, hey, maybe I need to look at a program in the U.S.? Was there someone you were in connection with? Was it the team itself, a global racing group? What was it that got you to come to the Formula Regional Americas program in 2020?
The biggest thing that pulled my attention was the Honda scholarship, the HBD scholarship, that helps the progression towards the next steps. Because we sort of realized, and for most drivers, obviously budget and the economy and sponsorship is essential and a big question. And then to see them have this sort of initiative, and obviously the Road to Indy has the USF and the Pro 2000 series has sort of the same scholarship. So that was one of the key features for me that I started to look across the pond and across to America.
And I guess at that point too, once you've done Euro Formula Open, really the options are where do you go, right? You're going FRA, you're going Indy Lights, or you're going FIA F3. And the budget for FIA F3, as we know, is extremely high, higher than anything over here. And then like you said, you have the difference of the teams. If you don't get with the right team, it's tough to make that call, right? To be on a different squad, right?
Yeah, exactly that. So, and then obviously the opportunity came together with Global, and they gave me an amazing shot to go for the title, and it came together quite nicely.
It did come together quite nicely. Let's talk about getting on the roll of winning all these races. What was it? What was it? You hit the ground running, obviously. Was there any kind of a switch there, or did you just really connect with the team at Global really quickly?
Again, I don't know, because it was almost the same as the British F3, where firstly the championship got postponed because of COVID.
Yeah.
And then I had some really issues of getting into the country to start off with.
Okay.
I wasn't allowed to fly in from Sweden to the U.S. So I had to spend 2 weeks in quarantine in Mexico to start off with.
Wow.
And then I was able to come into the U.S. I did 1 day of testing before coming to Mid-Ohio. I would think it was like 12 or 13 days before the first race. I arrived into the U.S.
Yeah.
So again, I spoke obviously with the team about this, and we thought on the test it felt quite good, but we said, all right, we haven't done that much testing, so if we can get like top 5 podium, that would be good. And then obviously just minimize the damage was kind of the mindset.
Yep.
But then, free practice sessions went well, and then we managed to get pole by 1,000 of a second ahead of David, and then we won both 2 of the races. So I mean, again, that sort of set the bar for us, and then we just try to keep it up.
And you were able to, which is nuts. I do like this transition. You battle a lot with David. Of course, you're in the paddock with David Malukas. Of course, his dad owns HMD Motorsports, and then they connect with Global Racing Group. Probably an ideal connection, knowing that you guys have already kind of had a bit of a relationship at the track to then move forward. And of course, you've got Benjamin Pedersen, you've got Nikita Lastiskin with you as well. 4 drivers set to go for Indy Lights. Tell me first what the feeling is like for you with the team. Obviously, you get some consistency from Global. You connect with HMD as well. What's it like? What was the transition like moving into essentially a combined team?
Yeah, no, I think you put it quite well. For me, at least, it seems like the perfect from 2 worlds, more or less, because obviously I got some people that I know from Global,
yep,
and then a lot of new faces from HMD who's got a lot of experience and knowledge about the Indy Lights car, which obviously I don't, and some from the Global teams don't. So I think that marriage is working out really well, and you can really feel the energy. Like the first time I went into the shop to do like a seat fit and everything, it was just so cool to meet the guys and sort of see them face to face, and they're really motivated and eager to be back in lights. Obviously, being canceled last year, they're here to win. So I think we work quite well together.
Well, the stark contrast, I think, in talking about FIA F3, you talk about Indy Lights, is that I think any team can win in Indy Lights, because if you look at, they all have. Juncos Racing's got a couple of championships. We know HMD's already won races. Andretti Autosport race wins and championships. Carlin won the championship in races. Everybody involved has the ability to win, which I think is great for everybody in the whole program. You're, of course, with HMD and Global Racing Group. Tell me about testing. I'm going to drop a Laguna Seca picture. What was it like to drive the Indy Lights car around Laguna Seca?
Man, that was almost a dream come true, because especially around Laguna, because it's one of those tracks, like, since I was a kid, I've been racing like Gran Turismo on PlayStation and stuff like that. And Laguna has been one of the circuits, right?
Yeah.
So I've done like hundreds of laps around there. And then to be able to actually do it in real life, it was so cool.
That's
and
amazing.
the whole like atmosphere just leading up to it, driving to the circuit in the morning, and you're just like, this is really happening. So, and then to do it in a lights car as well, because it's pretty damn fast, I'll tell you that.
That's it.
It
right?
was cool. Yeah.
So tell me this. So, you've gone from F4 to F3, F3 to British F3 to the Euro Formula Open, then to the FRA car. A lot of transition. Here's a question I want to drop here for you. This is from Kenny Weisenfelder. He says, Linus, my question is, how do you feel about where you are at this year, and do you believe that you will win a championship in the current series you're in?
Yes.
Yeah? Straight up.
Well, obviously, I believe in both myself and I believe in the team. Obviously, you got to be humble and respectful for the challenge that lies ahead, but I strongly believe that we should be there or thereabouts, and we're here to win. That's what we're here for. But again, it's going to be a lot of hard work for sure. But we're in here to win. But as is the other guys as well. So I think we're looking for a pretty tough championship as well. Obviously, like you mentioned before, where they're not running last year, it's building up to be a strong season this year, which is all the more exciting, because you want to be in with the mix of the best juniors in the world. And here we are at the second level now, the tier below IndyCar. It's going to be tough.
I agree with you, but that's what's the best thing about it. It's going to push you to the limits you've never been before, which is great. Now, I mentioned the different levels. This jump now from the Formula America series and that car up into Indy Lights, where do you rate that in terms of the level of jump? F4 to F3 to Euro Formula to FRA to Lights. How big of a jump is that? Is it similar to anything you've done already?
The closest I think it's similar to is the F4 to F3, because I think this is the biggest transformation that I've done, going from the FRA car to the Lights car. It's a big step in every way. Like when I talk about this, I usually say that now we have a higher top speed, but we brake later than we are in the FRA car.
Yeah.
Because we just got so much more downforce. Yeah. It weighs less than the FRA car. So it's awesome, because, well, the quicker you are, the more fun it gets.
The more fun it is. Exactly. Hey, here's another question along that line. This is from Jacob Abel, and Jacob's one of the drivers in Indy Pro 2000. Based on all the cars you've driven, which is the most similar to the Indy Lights car? I like that question.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think I would say it is the Euro Formula car, the Lara F312 or the F320. Because it's got almost the same amount of downforce. Like the downforce to weight distribution is almost similar. It just has less power. So you have that aspect with the Lights car, is that you have more power. But other than how it drives in the corners, etc., it's fairly similar to that one, which is a great car as well.
We've already talked a little bit about expectations. She told me straight up, I want to win the championship. We're all there to win. That's the deal. You've done it through your career. But let's have more fun. If you look at the schedule of everywhere we're going, and we're going to a bunch of places and stuff that you've really never done before. You have had a chance to do some street racing at Poe, which you and I talked about before we came on, which is great. So you have some street racing experience. But what tracks are you looking forward to on the schedule that you're like, I cannot wait to get there?
Two that pops up like straight away. It's St. Pete and it's Road America. Okay. It's two of the circuits that I've heard, well, being told at least, those are awesome. And St. Pete, because it is a cool venue and a cool track, and it's a street circuit. That's pretty awesome. And then Road America just seems so much fun, so high speed.
Indeed. Yeah. The thing about Road America is get that two huge long straightaways right down into hard braking zones. I think you'll enjoy that for sure. All right. What else we got moving forward here? What about the oval? Let's talk about that. We're not doing the Freedom 100 this year, which is sad for all of us who love that race. It's always such an exciting race. But you'll go to Worldwide Technology Raceway at Gateway for the first time. What are your thoughts on it? Are you doing any sim work on oval racing? Are you do you have any testing planned to get there before we start the season?
Yeah, well, it's mandatory that I need to go there at least one day before the race.
That's exactly right. Yep.
So at least one day is checked off. But I'm very excited about that, and it's probably going to be one of the most challenging things for me going into the season, to sort of cope and learn with that. Obviously, I think what I'm being told as well is, at least, it's like getting used to the speeds. It's going to be one thing, but then the racing is going to be a whole other thing. And I mean, just look at Freedom 100, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those races hasn't been decided like on the last 400 or 500 meters or whatever? So it's going to be cool. It's going to be interesting because it's obviously I've done the street races, I've done the normal road courses, but I've never done an oval. So we'll see, but I'm excited for it.
And at least a couple of tracks you've been at before. You only have the one season of Formula Regional Americas, but as you had mentioned, and I talked about before, Barber Motorsports Park, we're going to start there. You've raced at Barber before, and you've raced at Mid-Ohio. So at least a couple of tracks that you're going to go to and have a little bit of baseline, right?
Yeah, a couple. 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Now you tested it at Laguna too, so that's nice to have. Yeah, you got some test time there.
Yeah, exactly. So and hopefully I'll put some more miles like at some of the circuits during the year as well. But
Indeed.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, just looking back at last year, we seem to handle the new circuits pretty well. Obviously, it's going to be tougher this year, but I think we should be there or thereabouts.
Well, Linus, we're absolutely thrilled to have you as part of the Indy Lights program this year, and it was great. Though I knew it was coming, but once we got the confirmation, that was awesome. Let me give you an opportunity right now, kind of a platform here. Any sponsors you want to mention right now? Anybody in particular you'd like to thank, or the fact that you're getting a chance to get here right now, as we said, just one step away from IndyCar.
Yeah, it's awesome to get this opportunity. And firstly and foremost, obviously, I want to thank my family for this opportunity. I mean, since day one, they're my biggest supporters and biggest fans, and also maybe my toughest critics as well, which you always need.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, but it's great to have them on board, and obviously, hopefully, they'll be able to come across and maybe look at a race this year. And then secondly, my team for the support and having this opportunity to go with Global and HMD and go for this push and trying to win the championship. And then obviously all the sponsors and partners for making this possible. We all know how hard work it is, and it's good to see that the people that supported me for a couple of years stays on and want to see me do well as well. So I think we're going to have a great year together.
If they want to follow you on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, what do you use normally?
Yeah, I use all three. So Facebook is my name, Linus Lundqvist Racing. And then on Instagram, it's Linus HF Lundqvist. And on Twitter, it's L_Lundqvist76. So go follow me there for any updates, or if you want to see a bit of behind the scenes, what I usually do when I'm not racing.
I like that.
I'll post a little bit of that. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So you're working out like crazy. I know these Indy Lights cars are a little tougher to drive. Have they got you in the gym or what?
Well, you have to. Like you say, these are a bit tougher to drive, so you kind of have to be at the gym a bit more. But I'm enjoying the training, so it's not that tough. It's what makes it a bit fun as well.
Hey man, listen, I really appreciate you joining me. Good luck. It's going to be a fantastic season for sure.
Agreed. I very much agree.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much,
Rob. Drop in the back, folks. I'll tell you, that's a one driver we're going to be watching for sure throughout the entire season. Linus Lundqvist, unbelievably quick last year in FRA Americas. And again, that's why when he comes in here, we expect him to be one to run for the championship. You can see from what he's saying, he believes he can run for the championship as well. So it was great to have a chance to meet him here. I look forward to being with him throughout the season. Of course, all the Indy Lights events will be on NBC, IndyCar Radio as well. I'll be down on pit lane again for IndyCar Radio as a pit reporter. Looking forward to talking to all the young drivers. Again, just one step away from the NTT IndyCar Series. And how many drivers from the road to Indy have we seen normally anywhere between 2/3 or more of the field at the Indianapolis 500. That's what we're doing here in the Road Dandy. That's training the future stars of IndyCar. And this could definitely be another, as part of this Swedish invasion, right? Marcus Ericsson, of course, coming from F1. We were lucky to have Felix Rosenqvist be part of the action with us, a race winner in Indy Lights, and of course, now running for the Aero McLaren SP team, alongside Pato Award, another one of our graduates in 2021. Going to be a fantastic season of Indy Lights racing. 12 confirmed cars for this year, maybe as high as 13 or 14 at some of the races. And I just feel from everything we're doing, a lot of momentum to get to maybe 16 or 18 cars in 2022. Folks, thank you so much for joining us here. Again, it's a Monday, brand new week of the Road D&D Insider Live. On Thursday, I'll be finally talking to Rod Reed and Miles Rowe from Force Indy 99. Looking forward to chatting with them. What a great program that's going to be. And as Will Power said during Content Day, he's got a high hopes for Miles. Surround him with a lot of great people. And it'll be awesome to see how that program rolls out when we get to Barber at the end of April. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. My name is Rob Howden. Book it.